harpoon. Good shot, Captain. One more pass. Coming around, Marshal.
Despite playing a crucial role in one of the most iconic scenes of one of the most popular Star Wars stories, the Snowspeeder gets little attention from writers and fans alike. In fact, I have to chuckle at the fact that the Snowspeeder's only 2 film or TV appearances are the Battle of Hoth in Empire and the escape from the Fortress Inquisitorius in Kenobi, arguably the best and worst ground battles in the entire franchise, by a wide margin for both. Absolutely no gray area for the T-47. Crazy. So today we're going to take a look at the design, specifications, and history of this little airspeeder. I'm Joey from Radio Free Coruscant, and this is everything there is to know about the T-47. Design. The Incom T-47 Airspeeder was a small, wedge-shaped airspeeder designed for industrial cargo hauling and towing. It was more or less just a cockpit with wings and a repulsor lift, at least in its original configuration. It had a large radiator grille at the rear to cool its powerful repulsor lift and engine systems. Its wings had 4 large flaps that could be opened together to act as air brakes or independently for steering in high-speed flight, though it also had microthrusters for control during low-speed flight or while hovering. Perhaps its most unique feature was its power harpoon, which could fire a fusion disc connected to a Durasteel tow cable to attach to any metallic object. This enabled the T-47 to tow repulsor lift sleds, cargo containers, or even starships, making it a popular support craft for shipyards and cargo hubs. Unlike most Incom products, it was designed specifically with modification in mind, and was equipped with a much more powerful power plant than was necessary for its base configuration, allowing owners to attach all kinds of equipment to it. The T-47 also caught the eye of the Rebel Alliance, who used a few for the defense of planetary bases such as Echo Base on Hoth. They, and other operators looking for a cheap atmospheric fighter, added 2 laser cannons. We've never seen an original civilian T-47 on screen before, but I like to think that these laser cannons replaced a pair of cargo winches that would let it carry objects beneath it that don't float by themselves. I think E.C. Henry showed off something like that in his video where he designed a civilian T-47, though it wasn't equipped with them by default in his lore. But cannons weren't the only modification the Rebels did. The T-47 worked great in ordinary environments, but it really struggled when they brought it to Hoth. For that reason, they had to make extensive changes to adapt it to Hoth's extremely cold temperatures. While we don't know the exact nature of these changes, it's safe to assume they included extra insulation for the cockpit and electronics, changes to its temperature regulation system, and potentially some changes to the flight dynamics to account for the higher density of cold air. Altogether, this resulted in the vehicle known as the Snowspeeder. The success of the Snowspeeder resulted in several other environmental conversions by both the Rebel Alliance and other T-47 operators. The T-47 Sandspeeder, for example, was modified to be suitable for desert environments. It was equipped with advanced filters to prevent sand buildup, advanced cooling for the engines and cockpit, radar for visibility in sandstorms, and a repeating blaster instead of the tow cable for reasons unrelated to desert power. Then there was the Swamp Speeder, which added watertight seals around critical components and a flotation device for water landings. Another was the Sky Speeder, which had a pressurized cockpit and more powerful repulsor lifts for high-altitude flight. Finally, the Hydrospear Corporation created the Combat Aquaspeeder conversion kit for the T-47, which enabled it to operate completely underwater. And these were just variants for different environments. There were countless other options for different civilian roles. Specifications. The T-47 measured 5.3 meters long by 4.8 meters wide and 1.3 meters tall, or about 17 by 15 by 4 feet. This made it about the size of a car or SUV with wings. Its maximum speed was 650 kilometers per hour, but it could be modified to go as fast as 1,100 kilometers per hour with the right engineering skills. That translates to 403 to 683 miles per hour, by the way. Its maximum altitude was 175 meters, or 574 feet, but that could also be improved. By default, it was unarmed, but it was not rare to find T-47s armed with 2 laser cannons, and occasionally a repeating laser cannon turret. It had a crew of 2. These were a pilot and a cargo manager on the original model, but the cargo manager was replaced by a gunner on armed T-47s. It had no cargo or passenger capacity on its own, but it could tow payloads many times its own mass. The T-47 could be acquired for the low price of 18,000 credits, making it a great deal for anyone needing an airspeeder for any use. History. We don't know when the T-47 was introduced, but the earliest use of a T-47 for Rebel activities was in 9 BBY, though the design had been around for many years before that. An early Rebel group known as the Hidden Path acquired 2 T-47s that had been used for hauling sewage and used them to support their Jedi smuggling operation. These airspeeders were carried aboard their Broadhorn transport in a ventral cargo bay. We don't know what they typically used them for, as the Hidden Path did not engage in combat against the Empire, but they had outfitted their T-47s with laser cannons nonetheless. Or maybe the sewage company they bought them from did. Wouldn't that be nuts? I suppose it could be useful to have a cannon platform to fly through sewers and clear blockages, but the T-47 is the last vehicle I'd choose for that. According to Poe Dameron, they handle like a block of wood, and you'd have to have some huge sewers to fit them in. Plus, that wouldn't really be something I would describe as, quote, hauling sewage, so never mind. In 9 BBY, the Hidden Path was tasked with assisting Obi-Wan Kenobi with rescuing Princess Leia from the Fortress Inquisitorius on the planet Nur. They laid down suppressing fire into the fortress hangar to allow Kenobi, Leia, and their accomplice Tala Durith to escape, and then one T-47 distracted the then Grand Inquisitor Reva while the other landed to allow the group to board. How they fit 3 adults and a child into a 2-seat airspeeder is a mystery to me, but it's a good thing the speeder had a strong repulsor lift. Leia must have sat on the pilot's lap, and I guess Tala must have sat on Kenobi's, or vice versa, in the back. Not a very comfortable arrangement either way. But it's a good thing they didn't split up between the 2 airspeeders, as the second T-47 was destroyed by a crate of explosives thrown at it by Reva. They would not be the only rebel group to use the T-47, however. The Partisans, for example, were using them on the ruins of Jeddah in 1 ABY. However, it is safe to say that the Rebel Alliance proper was the most famous organization to use T-47s. A squadron of these converted into Snowspeeders was used to patrol around Echo Base on Hoth. In 3 ABY, Rogue Squadron was also called upon to defend the base from Imperial AT-AT walkers when the Empire discovered the base. They devised a strategy to defeat the walkers by attaching their tow cables to a walker's legs and then circling it several times until the cable was wrapped too tightly for the walker to break it, tripping it and exposing vulnerable parts to rebel lasers. This proved incredibly effective and held the Empire off long enough for the rebel ground staff to evacuate the base. Unfortunately, many of the Snowspeeders were destroyed in the battle, and most of the surviving craft had to be left behind as there was not enough time to load them into the rebel cargo ships. Still, the rebellion acquired many more after seeing the efficacy of this technique, and used them in numerous ground battles afterward to counteract AT-ATs across the galaxy. It was so effective, in fact, that the First Order incorporated cable cutters into the legs of their AT-M6 walkers to ensure it wouldn't be used against them some 30 years later. And that's everything there is to know about the T-47 Airspeeder. There was surprisingly little information about it, despite its critical role in the most iconic ground battle in Star Wars, but there was enough to talk about anyway. Let me know what you think of the T-47 in the comments, and what other air or ground vehicles you'd like to see in the future. But anyway, please like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. RFC, out.